Hey, welcome back to Charles O Sports. I'm Mike. Just got back from the gym, killing it again, hitting the bag, hitting the treadmill, hitting anybody that gets in my way. That's what I do. Didn't even shower because I was so excited about the show tonight. Zach, how's it going?
Doing all right.
That's right. Yeah. I love how Zach is always doing all right. I mean, if he was doing not all right, then the world would stop spinning or something. So glad you folks could join us tonight. And Zach, what are we going to talk about? Something a little different tonight.
Yeah. Um, and Formula One racing. A lot of people don't watch it. Um, Honestly, I didn't really watch it up until a couple months ago. But we thought it'd be interesting to talk about. Maybe convince a few people to open up and check it out if they wanted to. So decided to do a show about it today.
And that's what we're going to do. I could talk about Formula One, auto racing, and pretty interesting. Let's go back in time. Zachary, he was born in Germany way back in 2002. We were stationed over there, and Formula One is really big over in that part of the world. And there's a couple of racetracks there in Germany. I got to go to one of them, and it was outside of Nuremberg. And there wasn't a race that day, but the track was open for people could pay whatever it cost and put their car on an actual Formula One track and drive it. And it was interesting watching that from the stands. There were still probably 50,000 people just watching that on a Saturday, and they'd come around. I don't know what turn it was, but it was near the start finish line, and it was a hairpin turn, and people would come out of that turn and spin out just about every lap. It was pretty cool. Um, but I had a passing interest in Formula One when we were over there in Germany. That was the time when Michael Schumacher was dominating everything. Um, Came back to the States in 2004 and probably didn't pay any attention to Formula One at all until a few years back when Netflix had the Drive to Survive show. Now, you watch that, don't you, Zach?
Yeah, a little bit of it. I've only watched like one season, but um, I think for a lot of people that's a good gateway into it because it's accessible. But it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff and kind of makes you, if you watch the show, appreciate cars, manufacturing the car, getting the right driver, all that stuff. And um, I wouldn't want to speak too much on it because the show's more explanatory than that, but it's a good show. If someone watching this was interested in checking out the sport, that's probably a good place to start. Um, Rather than just jumping right in and on a Sunday and watching the race. So
Yeah, yeah. I I think they've had four seasons now. I've watched all four seasons on Netflix, and season one it started right in the middle of the pandemic, back when we weren't doing anything on the weekends except watching Netflix. And I had a passing interest. It had probably been on for a few months, and finally I decided to watch one and thought, hey, this is kind of cool. So, at that time, yeah, as a sports fan, I semi keep up on things. I used to be a big NASCAR fan, but I don't really care for any of the drivers anymore. Um, but Formula One behind the scenes is absolutely fascinating. All this glitz, all this glamour, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. They'll be at their famous race at Monaco Grand Prix, and you can drive your $500 million yacht up to the racetrack. You know, Zach and I were talking about that the other day about our not $500 million yacht. But once we get I don't know, many, many millions of subscribers, we might have a $500 million with the P yacht. It's very interesting the level of detail that goes on behind the scenes of Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, I was a NASCAR fan growing up. We went to the races, and I think what you hit on well is it's kind of like a personality thing. Like, there's no drivers now in NASCAR that are exciting or make you want to watch. Um, but in Formula One, I think there is right now. There's a couple guys that not only do you want to hear what they have to say, but you want to watch them race because they're really high level. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like any sport. You only see the game most of the time. You don't see all the behind the scenes, the practice, um, the testing of the cars is really big for Formula One, and what bolt to use, what paint to use, anything you can to shave off some time to have the fastest car. They do it. So, um, attention to detail is really high in any sport, and I'd have to say for Formula One, it's I think on another level.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those cars are just technical marvels. It's interesting. Um, like you'll pull up some stuff about it online. You look at the inside. You look at the steering wheel with all of the controls on that. You'll look at how the driver actually lies in the car. It's like they're lying down. They're not sitting up in the car. They're lying down. They've got the halo that's got the crossbar there in the front, and to the average viewer, you'd be like, well, how can they see through that? When they're the drivers in their cockpits right in the center of their view. Well, they see through it. They before they ever get in the car, they spend hundreds of hours on the simulator, getting used to that. It's just it's it's uh it's crazy details, I guess. And Formula One, by definition, the cars are supposed to be designed to a certain formula. But after that, as long as it's within the specifications of the rules, then whatever the heck they do to the car, it's okay. And you've got 20 drivers on 10 different teams. And this is an interesting point I want to bring up here. In NASCAR and IndyCar, in particular in the United States, if you're one of those drivers 1 through 30, for example, everybody has some sort of a chance to win every week. You've got your guys that are better teams, better funded, whatever. But on any given race, just about anything can happen. In Formula One, it doesn't roll like that.
No, it's really a big deal. Um, the sport can become fascinating without ever watching a race actually happen. You just see all the stuff that goes on with the teams and the drivers and the cars. Um, but yeah, I mean, the amount of funding you have is really big, and that's why when it comes race time or at the end of the season too, um, what place you're in the standing or where you place in a race, week to week or every other week. Um, it's really big. It can help you try to catch those top teams. But you're right. Teams like Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, even Aston Martin, there's kind of building up now.
Mhm.
Um, they have better resources and they have better drivers, which helps, but their cars are superior. They're not all the same. So a top team is gonna have a car that might be tenths of a second faster than everyone else, and in this sport, that means a lot. So, um, a lower tier kind of team just getting points in a race, uh, just building up or rising up the standings, and you'll end up getting more funding and eventually try to get to where those top teams are at. But um, I think it makes it interesting. I wouldn't like it if every team had the same car. Imagine every football team had like the same caliber players. It wouldn't be as
Mm.
fun to watch. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's a good point that you had there. Like right now, the dominant driver is Max Verstappen in the Red Bull machine, and I mean he's won 8 races this year already. Um,
yeah,
the Red Bull team has won every race this season, and it honestly hasn't been close. His teammate, and that's in writing only, Sergio Perez, he won a race, but um, Max Verstappen, his car is better than everybody else's. Um, is he a great driver? Well, hell yeah, he's a great driver. Yeah, obviously. But the Red Bull team seems to be on a whole other level. I mean, if we were talking college football here, they are Georgia the last couple of years, and everybody else is Kentucky. No disrespect to the Wildcats, just being real. And you were just down there the other day. Pretty cool.
I was. I
Lexington, yeah.
had a nice little trip there, but
Very nice. Very
um,
nice.
yeah, they're not worth much in football. So
No. But yeah, so it's interesting for the American sports fan, okay? Because let's say that you're tuning into the Netflix show or you're tuning into our show and you're just learning something about Formula One. Maybe you're a NASCAR fan who hasn't watched since Dell Sr. died or Tony Stewart retired or some of the other colorful characters, and you have an itch for auto racing. All you've been doing the past few years, you tune in once a year to watch the Indy 500, which is cool, okay, but hey, something new, and you probably saw it someplace that they're going to have a race in November, a Formula One race in Las Vegas that actually goes down the freaking strip. That's going to be crazy. I don't know if the race is going to be any good or not, but it's sure going to be a spectacle. But you're thinking, okay, well, this is an automobile race, so we get to see who's the best. Um, Going into any given race, there are at least 5 teams. They don't have a freaking shot in hell to win. They got no shot
no,
unless literally everybody in front of them wrecks.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the name of the game, man. These teams, they've established their dominance and they've done well. Um, but really, it's about funding. It's about the organization and team you have behind you. But it's not saying those lower level teams can't, build up and compete, and they can. We've seen it happen. Uh,
but they're not
so
they're
it,
not competing. They're not competing against Red Bull though.
no. But you have to start, low, and then it's not something that's going to take 2 races and you're going to be up there. It's not like that. This is this is
No,
years at a time, decades even. So
possibly, yeah. Yeah,
um,
it's pretty crazy because for some of the drivers who are new this year, there's a couple of them, and some of the lower level teams, the AlphaTauri, the Williams, they are successful if they score a point. Okay, now the NASCAR, IndyCar, they have point systems. Formula One does as well, but you get points for top 10. NASCAR, every driver gets a point regardless if he finishes the race or not. So Formula One is top 10, gets points. After that, you don't get any points. So you've got the lower level teams. If they get 1 point, they're throwing champagne, huge parties, crowds going wild, and they get tons of dollars more funding and all this stuff. But I don't, while I think all this is cool, and definitely the Netflix show Drive to Survive has it brought some people in. It's going to be interesting to see if this kind of phase plays out, because the fact is, um, I would be a bit surprised if Max Verstappen won every other freaking race this year.
Yeah, it's a competition problem, but we've seen it in sports, every sport. Sometime it's just, their era and it's their time to rule. And even in Formula One, talking about it, I wasn't watching when it happened, but, Mercedes won, what was it, like,
Seven, seven straight, six
yeah,
straight.
it was either 6 or 7 straight uh championships as a team. Lewis
Yeah,
Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton. Yeah,
Yeah. So, uh, it's only a problem when your team isn't the one that's winning. Uh, but dominance is just part of sports. Eventually, every once in a while, there's those guys that or teams that come around and they're just better and they win.
mm, yeah.
That's just how it is.
That is definitely what's going on in Formula One. Max Verstappen, who was a two-time defending Formula One champ, who was way ahead this year, and he could probably clinch a championship after he probably wins the next couple of races. The dude is only 25 years old. Now, make no mistake about it, for our fans just tuning in, Formula One is a rich person's game. And most of the drivers are European or South American. Most of them come from, yeah, gosh, very rich families, not wealthy, rich families. You had some drivers who came from billionaire families. Max Verstappen, his father was an actual Formula One driver. There's more. We could go a lot into this. I'm not going to, but Lewis Hamilton, who is seven-time champion, world renowned, one of the most famous people in the world, uh, he actually came from a not rich background and had to literally fight his way up in broken cars and all that. I have mad respect for him. I have mad respect for all these drivers because of what they do. The G forces that they endure in those cars is crazy. When you watch the Drive for Survive, you watch them do their neck exercises, and I can just see my head falling off my shoulder with some of these crazy things that they do. It's pretty wild. Um, but yeah, just going back, I know I'm talking in circles here. It's going to be interesting to see how the typical American racing fan still views this in a couple of years. Hopefully, we can see Mercedes rebound. Aston Martin is doing pretty darn good this year. Fernando Alonso is one of my favorite drivers. Old grizzled dude's only 41, I think, but he's old and grizzled in Formula One. He's had top 3 finishes, what they call podium finishes, multiple times this year. So some of these teams are creeping up, but right now they're all chasing the guy at the top of the mountain, Max Verstappen.
Yeah. I I think it'll continue to grow. The United States. We're always looking for something to watch. Um, and it does help now we have 3 races in our country, just within our borders,
That's
and
right.
no other um, country has that many races. Um, so
In case you're, oh yeah, in case you're wondering, you got the Las Vegas race. You got the Circuit of Americas outside of Austin, Texas, which is universally regarded as the finest Formula One facility in the world. If you don't believe me, consult the Google or Chat GPT; it'll let you know. And down at Miami, they've got the Miami Grand Prix, which is a really cool situation down there. So there's only 20 races. 3 of them are here in the States. And then they got one there just over the border in Canada. So, yeah, a fifth of the races on the calendar, they're around here, if you will. So, yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes with the fans, but um, the spectacle is insane. And I'd like to talk a little bit about this. Have you watched any of the pre-race stuff at all?
like practice and qualifying and all
Not
that?
that
Is that what you're talking
right
about?
before the race when Martin Brundle when he takes the cameraman and he's walking through the pits trying to talk to people. Have you watched that?
Oh yeah, the annoying
That
guy.
the annoying guy, yeah, Martin.
Yeah.
He is awesome. He used to be an F1 driver, and for our folks who've done time out there in Europe, especially in the old country there in England, he works for Sky Sports, which is the ESPN of England,
And-
and it's hilarious watching Martin Brundle go through, and especially at some of these American races because they'll be American athletes and celebrities who he's talking to somebody like Toto Wolff, who's the team principal of Mercedes, or he's talking to Christian Horner, who's the team principal of Red Bull, who happens to be married to Ginger Spice. Go figure. Um, he'll be talking to one of these guys who's worth $500 million and world famous outside the United States, and then he'll see somebody, some American uh, actor or whatever. He'll try to talk to him, and they don't know who he is, and they try to push him away. And it's just
Mm.
it's hilarious if you tune in to the show about 20 minutes before the race time, and you'll see him walking, doing his pit walk. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really watch that stuff. Uh I I wake up and turn the race on, but uh I it is more of a spectacle event. It's really cool watching it because these are high powered, really cool machines that drive very fast and have all these loops and turns and stuff. It's easy to sit there with your mouth open and just stare. It's one of those sports, and I know that sounds pretty dumb, but it's true. Um, it's fun to watch, but I see it as a sport, which it is, but it's also a big event. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl. Like Super Bowl is the championship, but a lot of people are watching it for different reasons. I think Formula One's that way too.
Yeah, and just for example, I mean the Las Vegas race is in November, so we don't know what it's going to draw yet. But the race at the Circuit of America outside of Austin for the weekend had, I think they said 350,000 people that
Hmm.
came for it. Now, how many of those people actually came for the race? I don't know, because depending on where you sit, these tracks are huge. I mean, they could be 2.5 miles all the way up to 4, I believe. And there's no vantage point where you can actually view the entire track. For somebody like me and Zach, who's been to many NASCAR races, um, you can see the track. You can see the other side. You can see what's going on, even at a large mile-and-a-half place like Texas Motor Speedway. Um, Formula One, you see your area, where they're going through. I don't know if they have a bunch of monitors around there that are actually big enough to show. I'm sure that if you have enough money to drop, that you can watch the race like that. But it seems like it is a big, giant event. Something you'd want to be a part of. Um, I have a couple people I work with who are just big time Formula One fans, and that was before the Netflix show came out. So they're excited that there's more races here in the States, and it is more accessible. And all the races are on ESPN, unless it's something that's here in the States or in our time zone, and then they'll probably show it on ABC as well. So if you're up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, don't have anything else to do, and the Hungarian Grand Prix is about to start, flip that sucker on ESPN and check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something you can easily get invested in, and fall into some holes and try to learn more about it pretty fast. That's what happened to me. I couldn't say I really watched many, um, races of anything the last few years until I found it, and it's interesting. It's cool to watch the cars go around, the personalities, the guys driving them, and the teams as well. Um,
Mhm.
all the little minor details that look minor, but they really make the biggest differences. And just last thing for me really is the tracks. It's cool to see all around the world, and every track's different. It's not just a big oval or
Mhm.
anything, and uh, there's levels of danger at some of them, and
They race in the
uh,
rain.
yeah, they do. The
Yeah.
rain, the ultimate equalizers, the rain. So um, it's fun to watch different circuits, tracks, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just high level stuff. It's not easy. We like me and you cannot go out there and do this. No way.
Oh hell no.
Um,
We wouldn't even be on the team. And that's something I want to talk about too. Um Formula One is the best of the best, and I'm even talking about the teams at the bottom of the standings. If you watch that Drive to Survive, the Haas team is not up in the top five. Okay, they're hovering 6 to 10, and when they get top 10 finishes and gets points, that's a win for them. Now their owner is Gene Haas, who's an American motorsports legend, and they want to do better. They try hard. A couple seasons of the Drive to Survive has a lot of Gunther Steinem, who's a team principal of Haas, and they got something else. But let me tell you something. Holy crap, that stuff is cutthroat. Okay, and I don't care what your job is on that team. You got to be an A+ player every time. All the way from the team principal all the way down to the most uh, the newest intern, the janitor, guy who cleans the
yeah,
windows, everything. These people are high level players, A+ players. I'm pulling that from Steve Jobs when he was talking about the Pixar people. They were A+ players. Um, the yeah. um, a lot of us would like to think that we're A+ players, but Formula One, those teams actually are.
yeah. Uh, and every millisecond matters. Your guys changing your tires out or trying to fix your wing on your car. Um, that matters. The guy that gets the blankets for your tires, that matters. The guy that picks up the loose screw and you're like, hey, this isn't right. Or, everything is so small and it just has to be done perfectly or it can ruin everything. So
Yeah, and we aren't even talking about the guys actually driving the car, you know.
yeah. The the margin for error is so small in those tracks. Without rain or anything, without the elements. Uh, just the fear of colliding with another car, amount of money that can lose you and your team.
There was yeah, I remember on I want to say the last season, which was season 4 of Formula One Drive to Survive. Uh, Mick Schumacher, drove for Haas. He's a famous Michael Schumacher 7-time champion. That's his son, and he's a reserve driver this year. Um, shoot, I don't remember.
I think for Mercedes,
He
I
is
think.
he's like the backup for Mercedes. Yeah.
I think
Um,
so.
so he had some wrecks last year, and they were talking about the amount of money it costs to repair these cars. And he's just throwing around money like, oh, 1.2, maybe one. Well, that's million, as in million, to repair a car that got wrecked on a weekend and they got to race the next week. So that's just and that's a team that's in 7th place. and a driver who was in 18th out of 20. It's incredible how much money, and like we were talking about, attention to detail that the driver has to have, and every one of the teammates back there. And there's a lot. Um, to me, it's always cool when they're in the pits, because all those pit workers are out there, the pit crew. I think they can have up to 12. One of our readers can, one of our viewers can correct us there if we need to. But they have a whole bunch of people out there. Pit stops take about 3 seconds. Okay, they're in and out with their tires and gone in 3 seconds. But everybody has to be perfect. In NASCAR, if you're not perfect, yeah, it's okay. Maybe you can, brush the guy into the wall just a little bit. It's okay, no harm, no foul. You can't do that in Formula One. You do that in Formula One, that car's gonna flip over a dozen times, and there are definitely some spectacular crashes for our sadists out there.
Yeah, it's not something to really look forward to because it's so dangerous. But uh, yeah, you just have to be precise out there. If you're not on the racing line, your tire might catch something, or if you go up on a curve, your car might go flying through the air. It's so, man, it's you really got to be dialed in for the whole race. Um, Not just the driver, the team as well. Um, the strategies they use, all that. It's there's a lot below the surface, and all we see is the car drive around the track. We're like, you're slow, you're fast, but man, there's a lot that goes into it. But it's exciting. I At least I do. I think it's cool. I have passion for seeing fast things. I like
Mm.
airplanes. I like cars. So um, just seeing those things roam around on the track, and uh, it's just interesting to me. It piques my interest. I like seeing the cars, and they look cool. They're cool looking
Mm.
vehicles.
Oh, they
They
are
really
cool
are.
looking. Yeah,
You can
yeah,
sit there and just pick apart one of those cars all day and just be so interested in it. So
mm. Yeah. I just pulled up their schedule. They're on their summer break right now. Their next race isn't until the August 27th, which would be the Dutch Grand Prix, and it'll be the home track of your championship leader Max Verstappen. Um, and yeah, kind of going back to the show, when they talk to him, he's very kind of standoffish, and yeah, I thought the guy was a prick, but he's probably not. He's just Dutch. If those of you who know what I mean, you know what I mean.
yeah, I don't know anybody from that part of the world, so I couldn't tell you.
Good
But
grief, I'm still
uh,
sweating. I tell you, that's ridiculous. Um,
uh,
yeah,
I I don't know. I think at a certain level, for everything, you have to be kind of a stern person. That's a nice word to say, but um, to be great, you can't just let people run over you, walk over you, whatever.
yeah,
You gotta,
you're damn right with that. Yeah,
yeah.
this sport is so cutthroat that uh, they announce their drivers for the next season about 2/3 of the way through the previous season. So you've got a lame duck driver who's still trying to get the best that he can out of his equipment. He's trying to audition for another ride next year, and he already knows he's being replaced because
Hmm.
they think somebody else is better, and that's your team, that's your boss, that's your family. Like, holy crap! Just the level of high performers is just off the charts high. It's amazing.
I'm not here to try and influence people or anything to watch the sport. I'm just telling it how it is and how I view it. But it really is something you can take a deep dive into
Mm.
and become absorbed by it. Not in a bad way. It's just so intriguing, uh, and interesting. And as soon as you think you kind of have a grasp on it, there's always something else that comes up, and new track might come in. We got Vegas this
Mhm.
year. New drivers, new team might show up. New regulations on the cars. It's uh, there's always something different going on. So there's change, and change isn't a bad thing, but uh, there's always some sort of thing you could touch up your knowledge on. So I think some people out there would appreciate that.
I agree. I agree 100%. It's about time for us to wrap it up. Tonight, we've been talking a little out there outside the box about Formula One racing. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Check it out. The Drive to Survive on Netflix. Shout out to Jimmy John's for the Italian nightclub that I'm about to dig into. Picked that up earlier. Um, they're one of our sponsors tonight.
No, they're
Okay,
not. Shut up.
like,
We don't have sponsors. 30 people watch our show. You gotta
hey,
cut that up.
hey, man, it makes me feel better. And
All right, well,
we're going to sign off for tonight. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Tell all your friends, tell your enemies, hell, tell your next door neighbor that is cranky to check out this show. It's freaking amazing. It'll change your life. Starting next week, we're going to get into football. And I think that, man, we're just like millions and millions of others. We're very excited. So, again, from Ohio, I'm Mike. It's good to talk to you. Zach,
amen.
have a good night, buddy.
I think our best work is ahead of us because we got football coming up. So
Hell to the yeah. It's about time.
I agree.
Let's go. Boomer Sooner. Good night, folks.